Hey, Mike Callan here with a quick video. Got me thinking here with a lot of snow on the ground coming down in upstate New York here. Is your virtual hiring bench frozen? And what I mean by this and what got me thinking about this is a lot of local contractors that I'm friends with are posting on their personal and business Facebook pages, believe it or not, looking for employees to help them out in the latest storm. So whether it's lawn care, home cleaning, snow plowing, one thing that we always talk about is stacking the bench. It was a Lawn Care Millionaire video that I did with Jonathan Potoshnik of the Lawn Care Millionaire probably 4 or 5 years ago before SA3. And Jonathan and I talked about the bottlenecks of growing your business. And one of the biggest ones is labor. It accounts for about 60% of the cost. So one of the things that Jonathan and I talked about was stacking that bench, or as Jonathan calls it, the virtual bench. But I use the analogy of a sports team. We want to go out and stack the guys and girls on the bench. So if they're not producing on the field, we have people on the bench that can replace them, that are qualified, trained, and in shape and ready to go and know your systems or plays in the field. So when we stop doing that, including in my business, that's when we get in trouble. So the last thing you want to do is go out in the middle of a snowstorm and start posting on Facebook, are people ready or available to help plow snow? They've never plowed before. They probably have no idea how to run your equipment, even if they've run different equipment. And last thing you want to do is throw a rookie in any type of job in the service industry, whether it's lawn care, home cleaning, especially snow removal, just given the dangers of that. So the way we tackle that, and the way we've tackled that in both of my businesses, we're going into creating this bench like a sports team, just like the analogy I highlighted. But how we're doing is we're going out and recruiting once, twice a week, even 3 times a week for every position in the business, including the owner, in my opinion. That's how I found my replacement in Callahan's Lawn Care. So this might sound like, wow, I don't have enough time. There's no way I could spend 1, 2, or even 3 days or even an hour a week recruiting. So it doesn't have to be in person. It should be, in my opinion, eventually as you scale into it. But what we want to do is create a process through interviewing, hopefully in Spanish and English. Spanish is probably going to be more of a street Spanish play, is what we'd recommend right now for better traction and conversion. So have a online application that's constantly out there on your Facebook, Indeed, Craigslist. You give the link to your existing employees and let them fill that out as well. And what we're going to do is create a couple virtual hoops to make sure we're getting someone who's qualified and actually interested in the job itself. So in upstate New York, with recent laws, if you applied for so many applications and you got to a certain point in the process, New York State would grant continued unemployment. So a lot of people would be filling out these applications just to continue their unemployment. Obviously a complete waste of time. So we want to create some virtual hoops in that application process. So let's just say Joe gets through the application process. Now we're going to go in and remind him the week before and the day before via text where to show up, when to show up, whether it's in person or online, and give him the ability to text us back or email us back letting him know he's not going to show up. Believe it or not, some of these folks were signing up for interviews to get to that point for their unemployment, but did have the courtesy to actually text us back and say, hey, you know what, I'm not going to make it to the interview. So that allowed us to reschedule those bookings. The other thing we did is we actually had Christine in my office pre-rank them as an A, B, and C with reviewers' comments. So that allowed the interviewer, whether it's in phone or person, to know what they're getting into. And we started to take that application pipeline and limit it to the A and B application. So we pre-sorted them. When we actually got them to the physical interview on the phone or in person, we had a standardized set of questions, 4 or 5 questions we asked every applicant. And the reason that we did this is we wanted to create an interview process that didn't have biases in it, and the interviewer could rank them A, B, and C with interviewers' comments. And we created a searchable database. And this virtual labor pool, or bench, as we use the analogy of a sports team, allowed us to go in and not hire the first individual through the door with a pulse or sometimes half a pulse or in the middle of a snowstorm to do this. So we had a searchable database that was qualified and ready to go. And some people ask, well, what if we don't hire them immediately? That's fine. We want to be pretty transparent about it after we talk to them after the interview. But if, let's say, we don't hire Joe, it's been a few weeks or a few months and we call him back, maybe he's at the shop down the street, they're having cash flow problems, they can't pay him on time, maybe they're paying him cash money under the table, and it's not the professional organization that he wanted to work with. Hopefully through a little nurture, we're still staying in contact with Joe, so when the time is right, we can contact Joe and hopefully get him on our bench. So the main things that we see in a lot of the lawn care businesses and home cleaning is there are seasonal spikes of influx in and out in our businesses. So what we saw in upstate New York was, I can go back probably the last 7 or 8 years and literally tell you within a 2-week span that we either fired someone or someone quit. Literally the first week of April, the Memorial Day weekend, July 4th weekend, within 2 weeks either way, the week of August 18th, and the last week of October. There was some other stats, I don't know them off the top of my head, but I will tell you those for sure in upstate New York, within a 2-week period, either way, we had either fired someone or someone had quit each and every time. So traditionally we'd go out and recruit Monday and Wednesdays for all the positions in the business. Before a week or so before those spikes where we knew traditionally we were going to lose somebody, we would ramp that up to Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So we're constantly casting that digital net as we do with our online marketing for our clients. We're casting that net for online applicants and continuing to build that bench just like a sports team. So we've got people trained and ready to go. And I don't want to leave out the importance, especially if you're in the snow belt right here. It is hard to retain seasonal employees, especially if it's not snowing. Now, this year we've got well above the average in snow, and it's probably not an issue. But actually, it probably still is, because I'm seeing at least 3 local companies right now begging for people to work today. And this was predicted. So the way we tackled that at Callahan's is we went out and not only created a bench for employees, but we created a bench for qualified subcontractors that knew our systems and were ready. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We paid through the nose for these individuals, significantly more than we would have if we had them working as subcontractors throughout the year. But they were our virtual bench of subcontractors for no-show employees, breakdowns, and for big, massive storms. So we were getting 18, 17 inches of snow in 10 to 12 hours. We would call these individuals up and literally double up on our commercial plow routes, and our subs would take half the route and our internal crews would take half the route. And it was also great for being able to swap out some of our internal employees far as the amount of time on the road, because some of these events, as you well know, in the snow industry can last up to 32 or 36 hours. I think my record was about 36 hours straight one time, covering the crews and getting them some breaks. Not healthy, not safe. So in order to create a safe working environment, we brought in these subcontractors and some additional trained people on our bench to sub out some of our employees that needed a break for safety. So the idea of the analogy here is your virtual bench, or is your hiring frozen? We need to go out and create that bench like a sports team, or Jonathan Potoshnik of the Lawn Care Millionaire calls it a virtual bench. Same exact thing. Pretty much the same approach. We need to go out and constantly be recruiting. And as I found the gentleman who ran Callahan's Lawn Care, I found him probably about 1.5 years to almost 2 years before I actually needed him. But when you're looking for what you need in your business, when you need it, it's too late. But if you have an organizational chart without names on it, but skill sets and expectations of what they're going to be doing, when that individual walks in your office or comes on the phone, you will find them, and if it's within the budget, you may want to work them in, because to find a high-level individual to run your finances or run your entire business is hard to come by nowadays, especially with the labor market. So we need to be out constantly recruiting for every position, and it keeps your employees on their toes. So occasionally I would come down to the shop and like, well, guys, I got a full day of interviews today, and they'd be looking around going, well, we're fully staffed. What's going on? We didn't want to threaten them, but we didn't want them to get basically pompous and lazy and know that they had complete job security. They still needed to produce production rates that we produce with budgeted times with a quality constraint. Otherwise, we had a bench of applicants that could go out and replace them. So want to say what's up to Thomas, David, Jim, Matthew, Austin, Michelle of Pink Collars. What's up? But any comments, questions about how do you stack your virtual bench, or are you mid-season right now going into the winter and your bench is frozen? That's where we get in trouble. Every time at Callahan's we stopped recruiting and we didn't have that bench stacked, inevitably myself or someone in the management team would get sucked back on a truck, and that's when issues happen. And I've always been in the firm belief of either coach up or coach out. We are slow to hire but quick to fire. And every time I was slow to fire, if I couldn't coach them up, that's when things happen. Accidents, no calls, service issues. So don't make the same mistake that I did in some of the earlier years, where I literally would say, well, we can't live without this individual, especially in the snow season. Those are the individuals that ended up getting in accidents, not showing up, causing us service concerns, having us to call subcontractors in at 2 or almost 3 times their normal rate to cover those routes. So go out, don't have a frozen bench, constantly recruit, keep your internal staff on their toes, let them know that it's a fluid thing and they have a solid job, but if they aren't producing and doing what they should be doing, we're recruiting, and we're not going to leave them out to dry, especially all night in a plow run, covering 2 or 3 routes when people don't show. We're stacking a bench to protect them as well and building a team of credibility and predictable systems. So comments, questions, drop them below. Appreciate everybody watching, and stay warm out there, especially if you're in the Northeast, because another 3 to 6 tonight, and it's coming down, boys and girls.